Hey guys, it's Andy. We're back again with a brand new series. This is all based around five projects or previous games that we'd like to see remade, remastered, updated, whatever the case may be, or that may have just been forgotten in time. Today we're looking at five of my personal favourites that I'd like to see revisited. As I say, that can be a full-on remake in the veins of, your Resident Evil and your Final Fantasy remakes. Not so much a remaster or a full-on sequel true to the original. So without further ado, let's get into it, and we'll start with number one. So the first game we have on the list is Nightmare Creatures. This was a classic that was released in 1997. It was released on the PlayStation 1. It was later on the N64 and PC and potentially other consoles as well. You could control two characters. You had Nadia the female and you had Ignatius the male, and it was set in sort of gothic era where you're fighting all sort of beasts and ghoulies, werewolves and the likes. You had sort of scythes and swords, and then your secondary weapons, pistols, grenades. Really cool game. It was hard. I mean, people sort of look at Dark Souls and Elden Rings of today. This was sort of like the classic Bloodborne. It was a hack and slash, more in the vein of your Devil May Cry's, things along those lines. However, this game was fairly punishing. There was a sequel and there was plans not so long back for a remake. However, unfortunately, that remake got cancelled and popped in the bin. But other than that, I would love to see a full-on remake of this game and see what we could do in today's technology, graphics, and sort of design and sound and updated combat mechanics all in well, and bring it sort of on par with a modern day Devil May Cry, God of War, sort of one-cut action all the way through, but with the added RPG elements of upgrading your characters. Bring some online co-op into the mix as well, and we're going to have a fantastic horror game, especially at this time of year as we move into the Halloween season. Bring me on some more Nightmare Creatures, yes please. Second up on the list is another classic from the PS1 days that gave you rage, strength and honour, but overall a massive sense of achievement. We had Ubisoft's Tenchu Stealth Assassins. Now, there have been multiple sequels over the year, but we had the initial two on the PlayStation, and then we had it on the Xbox and other platforms down the line. So again, with this one, there was two protagonists, male or female, and it was pure stealth. If you wanted to run into this game like it's showing you on the screen here now as full-on combat mode, you were going to have a bad time. I can remember it taking me months just to get through what would be the first level, as it were. Now what you'd want to do is sort of sneak around. Again, you could get unlockables, further equipment as you went in, sort of smoke bombs, grappling hooks, get like you see here hanging from the ceiling up in the rafters. You'd want to use your kunai, and your sword was a last resort getting in there. Absolutely fantastic game in the stealth genre, and definitely something that I'd like to see again with sort of games like Ghost of Tsushima and where Assassin's Creed are going these days. I think this would be perfect in today's modern world of gaming. And in the next spot we have Urban Chaos from Eidos Montreal, I believe. It was initially released on the PC, then it was on PlayStation 1, and then it went over to Dreamcast further down the line. A game that didn't get great reception and you've probably never heard of. However, I thought it was fantastic. It was one of the earlier sort of third-person adventure games. It was set in a rundown city, sort of if you think of RoboCop's Detroit. Typical revenge game. It's set in a city where gangs have overtaken it. We don't know why, what's going on, but you find all that out. But the free roam, the driving, it had collectibles, it had the guns, Like, as you can see here, sort of the action pieces for a game so early on, and to be missed out, it felt fantastic. Even the sound and the ambience at the time, you felt that sort of doom and gloom from the city. At times it was punishing, at other times it was highly rewarding. I mean, the cutscenes were typical of the day. You had multiple characters that you could play through at certain times, but overall, though, it was a fantastic game that just sort of got forgotten about at time with other things and sort of the time in the life of the PlayStation. It is really a game that I'd love to see, just given the love, and like I say, even a sequel or just a full-on remake with the same characters, the same setting, the same vibe, but bring it to life, you know, in a world, you imagine sort of a GTA-style world, but have this game. It was fantastic. I love it. Bring it back. Let me see some more. Over next, we have Jedi Power Battles, one of the LucasArts games. Absolutely fantastic. Again, punishing, but it was sort of set around the time of the prequel movies. You had Plo Koon, you had Mace Windu, Obi-Wan, you could unlock Darth Maul down the line. Sort of RPG elements to it, where you could upgrade over time, become more powerful. You could put pickups where it extend your lightsaber, or you'd attack harder and faster. But overall, again, another underlooked game. It was very punishing at the time, but again, I think Star Wars, it has games, and at times they're very mediocre or they miss the point. Yes, we've had some fantastic games that we'll cover later on down the line, but Jedi's was where it at, and that force power, and just really truly feeling the power of the force and the lightsaber, just absolutely going ham. This covered it for such an early game, and again, we've had the Force Unleashed, we've had the recent Star Wars game with Cal Kestis, but this is something that I'd like to see. Just that 4-player co-op, just going wild in the Star Wars universe, would be absolutely fantastic in today's world. Even if you think a sort of Warframe, but with Jedi's, give me that game, give me it now. I'm all down for some Jedi Power Battles, a sequel or remake. And last but certainly not least on this list is something that we may or may not be getting. More than likely may not, as the leaks run true, but Silent Hill, one of the best games ever made, and not even intended to be that way. Released in 1999, I believe. Obviously the fog, as we can see here, an absolute massive staple of the game, which was unintended. They just put it on there because of the power of the PlayStation wasn't great enough. So obviously, because of the draw distances looked awful and the town looked barren, they added the fog in, which was an accident to start with, and it added to the feel of the game that we all know and love today. You're playing Harry looking for your daughter in the town of Silent Hill. Obviously, there's twists. You find Sybil here along the way, and many other characters that are weird and wonderful. As you make your way through the town, and some really memorable places as you go. Some absolutely iconic moments in gaming. As I say, we've had the fog, your first encounters, the radio static, the part which I thought was captured perfectly in the movie as you move down the corridor, where you sort of first encounter your real enemies, and you end up in, you know, the sort of Silent Hill world, as it were. I mean, even though the graphics at the time, you sort of watch these early CGI cutscenes, this is the part that I was just talking about, how the camera moves. They're absolutely fantastic. But even as we move on today, sort of the cutscenes, but the characters and the acting, even though Hammer Time are absolutely fantastic and kept that intrigue. I think there's been sort of another 10 games since then, but this one, a lot of people love Silent Hill 2 because obviously it moved up in technology. Silent Hill 1 for me was the game that really drew me in. The puzzles were fantastic. They were challenging enough at the time when internet wasn't really about, or not as widespread as it is today. So working out the puzzles on your own, sort of challenging yourself. There we have the Gillespie character. But just absolutely fantastic story and telling, and something that I would love to see remade in brand new glory, and nothing changed, skipped, just purely graphics and gameplay. Bring me this game back, and I think not just me, but millions around the love would just go absolutely wild if this was ever released. But that's it, guys. That's the 5 games for this round, and we'll see you in part 2 next week and see what other games we can dig out the treasure chest. Take care, guys.